Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Little roller up along first. Behind the see you in Pittsburgh. Can't wait. All of it is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. Looking, going in the end zone.
You're tuned into Game On with Josh Silverberg and Eric Bowe. All things sports. It's
Game on. Yeah. Game on.
Game On, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live. Happy Thursday to all of you. This is Game On the Worldwide Sports Radio Network every single Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can check us out on worldwidesportsradio.com, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Job of the Mouth have a TikTok and YouTube. I don't know if I said YouTube. I should have.
YouTube and Instagram.
Thank you, Speedy. And of course, that is Speedy PD on the board. Speedy, how are you, sir?
Yes, having to fill in on all the Job on the Mouth social media platforms.
There you go. And he's back. If you notice his logo, his face was not on last week, and nor was his name on the show, but he's back.
Wow. Like that. Okay.
That was a Speedy roll. That was not a me roll. But you can also call the show at 631-672-3108 is the number to call. We got a lot to get to. The New York Knicks fire Tom Thibodeau. We'll get into that. Aaron Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The NHL Stanley Cup started last night, and boy, was that a game. I fell asleep. Did not watch the end of it. And the NBA Finals begin tonight. Game 1, Indiana Pacers, Oklahoma City Thunder. I believe the Thunder are massive favorites. I don't know if you have the odds.
Minus 700.
Yeah, that's huge favorites for them in this. Eric, how you doing, man? How is your son doing? I know he had a couple procedures with the tonsils and the things like that. Everybody's good?
Knock on wood, we're good right now.
That's
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes life happens, Everyone knows as a parent, the worst thing to see is sometimes your kid's in pain and not healthy and whatever else. But you know what? All good things. He's been a champ, and we're cool. So thank you, Josh.
Of course. Thinking about you guys. I don't know what he's looking at on the ceiling, but that's fine. Again, good show. Good show tonight. We have a lot to get into, and we're going to get into the Tom Thibodeau stuff. We're going to get into all that stuff, but we begin with the news today that broke. Aaron Rodgers is flying to Pittsburgh. He's going to sign the contract. He's going to join for a mandatory minicamp, right? Mandatory minicamp with the Steelers next week. So that should be fascinating. Game 1, week 1, the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers at MetLife Stadium.
I can't wait for Rodgers to throw 300-plus yards that game. 3 touchdowns. DK Metcalf just goes off.
I mean, guarantee the Speed's looking at me like, I don't think that's going to happen.
Why not? Think about it. Mike Tomlin, all the guy does is win, right? You have.
It's actually funny, though, because actually the New York Jets always beat the Steelers. That's the funny thing.
That's the reason I was laughing.
Them and the
Texans, they always seem to beat for some reason.
Yeah, they always beat them.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, that's a rejuvenated offense right there.
I guess Aaron Rodgers will get you the feels. I can tell you that. Devontae Adams was so eager to go back. Devontae Adams was so eager to play with him again. He signed literally the first week of the offseason and said, "I'm signing with the Rams."
Now the real question: when does Pat McAfee come out of retirement and sign as a punter?
No, God.
You know what? Don't tempt him. That's
Well, I mean, a lot of guys don't even know who Pat McAfee is. We talked about that, the John Mellencamp stuff, but that's a thing in the past. But this Aaron Rodgers thing is quite, in my opinion, it's fascinating in the sense of, I think we all knew this was going to happen. The Steelers didn't have a choice. That was the issue. They were stuck where they were. They didn't draft the quarterback. They didn't take anyone.
both their starters from last year.
Well, they wanted Fields back, and he signed with the Jets. They wanted Russ. They were willing to let Wilson go. Fields they wanted back because they wanted to keep around for a while. He just got more money from the Jets and everything, and he gets to play with a lot of his former teammates at Ohio State with Garrett Wilson and Jeremy Rucker and all these guys and everything of that nature. But this Aaron Rodgers thing is fascinating.
Both of those teams are kind of interesting, right? With the offseason that they had. The Steelers lose their quarterbacks. They get Aaron Rodgers. They lose, was it Najee Harris, I believe?
Who did he sign with?
Chargers.
The Chargers, yeah.
That's a good move.
Okay. So they're kind of a different team than that you saw from last year. And then Jets on the other side, Aaron Glenn comes in. House is getting cleaned up a little bit, right? Justin Fields gets
front office too. They've under the radar. They've dumped a lot of the old regime from the front office.
If I'm not mistaken, do they play each other week 1?
Week 1.
Is that not whoever wins that game, the loser? Isn't the loser going to be like the biggest? I can't believe we did this offseason. This was terrible. Like the overreaction.
No, I don't think so because I think Jet fans have an honest understanding of how the season's going to go. I say 6 or 7 wins, maybe. My opinion is I want to see growth. It's a first year head coach, and if they go in there and they beat Aaron Rodgers week 1 and you stick it to him, it's a coup because guess what? A lot of these guys on the Jets are going to be motivated to do this against their former quarterback, and what you want to see is just a growth mindset from this team. You want to see the chemistry. I mean, Glenn is what I read is the practices are night and day compared to when Robert Saleh was here. When guys would make mistakes, they would continue to practice. With Glenn, they're doing up downs on the sideline, and they're being told what they're doing and making themselves accountable for those mistakes. That Aaron Glenn is going to say, "I'm not tolerating these mistakes." I don't care who the last regime was. That was the problem with Robert Saleh, where Saleh would constantly say, these are grown men. They know they're making mistakes. Well, whether they're grown men or not, you need to hold them accountable. You can't just how many times did John Franklin Myers hit a quarterback on 3rd and long for a roughing the passer call, and he would keep him on the field the next play? And I'd be like, why? What is happening? Why are you letting him continue? Glenn is not going to do that.
Mike Tomlin with his team, no?
What, Tomlin? What, with letting guys make mistakes? No, Tomlin takes guys out. He holds them accountable. He'll keep players out. Yeah, oh yeah. You're saying he's like Glenn, the way Glenn is, and also Glenn's doing he does the Bible studies too during the week as well, which is fascinating and everything of that nature. So I think that to me, it's unique in the sense of you're getting kind of an old school way of coaching with the way the Jets are being coached right now and being portrayed. But look, week 1 will be fascinating. I'm so glad it's not a primetime game. It's just a regular 1:00 game. I hate the primetime games. I can't stand them. I think they're ridiculous. They're dumb. They're stupid. They're pointless. And the only thing you're doing is literally you're essentially you're microscoping the issue at hand in regards to where the New York Jets should be, which is and the reason why they didn't make this game a week 1 game was because nobody knew if Rodgers was going to do it or not. If you make this game a primetime game week 1 and Rodgers doesn't sign, you got Mason Rudolph against Justin Fields. Nobody wants to watch that. Nobody wants to see that. Who cares? So I'm just glad this is a 1:00 game. The Steelers didn't have a choice. They had to do this. This was their best option. Their next option was maybe trading for Kirk Cousins. Like I said, you don't draft the quarterback. They wanted to sign Fields, and Fields went somewhere else. He got paid. So we'll see what happens. But to me, I mean, do I think the Steelers are better than the Ravens? I don't. I don't think this makes them better. I think maybe this makes them a wild card team, but it's not. They're not better than Baltimore. I have to see what the Bengals are. I mean, the Bengals are having a whole bunch of issues this offseason because, again, Trey Hendrickson has still not been paid, which is a massive issue. And, I just – we'll see what Rodgers has left.
We kind of saw it last year. Do you think all of a sudden he has a resurgence with Pittsburgh out of nowhere? Do you think the fact of, there was just the Jets were just so much in shambles, it carried it from off the field to on the field and everything. I don't know. Do you really think Rodgers is going to be that much better than he was last year?
I mean, I don't know. I don't. I mean, he had a multitude of weapons. He did with Hall, and then they drafted the running backs. He had Garrett Wilson. They traded for Devontae Adams. They had Ty Conklin. So they had guys, and nothing came to fruition. The problem was he was overthrowing guys. He was also underthrowing guys at times. The schematics were all over the place. They signed Mike Williams and everything of that nature. It just nothing worked out. Nothing at all worked out. It was all over the place in regards to how the offense was being ran, and there was no head coach there. You know what I mean? Like there was no person in place that led the team. It was essentially, okay, here's what you have, meaning Rodgers, go make it work. And to me, we'll see. I mean, I think the torn Achilles really threw him off last year as well. But like I said, I don't have if they get into the playoffs, because I know Steelers fans are going to think, we might have a shot. But I do think it's kind of weird that an organization like the Steelers, who never do things like this, are trading for DK Metcalf, giving him a big extension, and then signing Aaron Rodgers. It's very out of left field of this organization to do this. That's what makes it unique. And I'm wondering, it's because they haven't won a playoff game in so many years.
You got something's got to give, right?
Oh, it's just desperate.
Something has to give. Well, right. What have they really done? They've made the playoffs, lost in the wild card, losing the first round, right? They haven't made it far into the playoffs, let alone make a Super Bowl. It's fine to win the regular season games. I mean, you talk about Mike Tomlin making the playoffs, but there's always how much times of just
Look at Rick's comment. I like that. My friend Rick. There's 0% chance he gets into the playoffs just for headlines. There it is.
But they get to the playoffs, for instance, and then they falter, right? How many times can you make the playoffs and say, okay, we have to do something? This is their shot. This is what they're trying to do.
They didn't have a choice. Like I said, they got blasted by Baltimore last year again, and they put all their eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket, assuming, like I said, when you don't draft the quarterback and you lose both of your guys from last year, you're now taking the role of, listen, we need him here, or we're going to be literally a 4 or 5 win team with this offense and no quarterback. That's the issue. Like I said, I think maybe they can do the wild card, but like I said, we'll see what happens. But we're going to move on to the next part, and that was the shocking firing of one Tom Thibodeau the other day. I believe it was at 2:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. We got the news from Sham Sharon from ESPN that Tom Thibodeau is no longer the head coach of the New York Knicks. They said he was relieved of his duties. He was not fired. So I'm wondering if they're moving him to another part of the organization or he's gone. I'm not sure. And I know, Eric, you and I have been on this for a long time, back and forth with it. It's a constant conversation.
Josh, let me ask you this, right?
Okay.
Are you upset, you okay with it, or meh, whatever, if he gets moved into a advisory role with the Knicks? Maybe an advisor to Leon Rose, for instance, right? Are you okay with that, or are you more of a Tibbs, you're gone altogether, Great job. Thanks for everything. Bring in a new regime.
No, I would be. If he stays on, I'd be fine. It's no issue to me. I don't think he's really going to have much to do with anything. I mean, maybe he helps just because he's there and to make the players comfortable. But there was a lot of tea leaves this year that were thrown into the whole season from the Miguel. Remember, Mikal Bridges said the comments about the minutes thing, play the bench more, to Josh Harton numerous times throughout the season said we have lack of focus, lack of energy to the third quarter, coming out of the half, losing on these 15-4, 16-3 runs that they gave up, to just arguments on the bench constantly. My issue is when I look at the situation that is of where Tom Thibodeau was, I think the ceiling was reached. Every postseason series that he had as the head coach of the Knicks, they were the favorites, and they lost every series. The Atlanta series, they let one guy beat him in Trae Young. The Miami series, an 8-seeded Heat team went in there. I know they had a run to the finals, but Jimmy Butler crushed them. And then you lose back-to-back years to Carlisle and the Pacers, and last year's team, who even with the injuries, gave you a better effort than this year's team. And it felt like this year's team, I know Towns and Brunson do not play defense, and again, you cannot fire the players. But it felt like the perimeter defense with even OG and with Bridges and those guys regressed. And that was the weird part of the situation is it didn't make sense to me why this was happening. Why are guys constantly from threes? Because the year before that, when they had DiVincenzo and OG and McBride, you never saw that. You never saw that happen. And this year, it was shocking how just piss poor the perimeter D was for this team. And Tibbs preaches defense. That was my issue. But now you have other things that are coming out. The players are not happy that Rick Brunson is too involved. Understandably so. I think he is way too involved. And my other thought process is, why is it? And one of the head coaching candidates, and we'll discuss him in a little bit, is Johnny Bryant, who was the assistant coach for the Knicks last year and for the 4 years that Tibbs was here for the 6. Why did he leave to go to the same role in Cleveland with Kenny Atkinson? So there had to be something that was underlining there where you say to yourself, okay, did Tibbs' team reach its peak? Did it get to where, and I understand now the next coach that's coming in has to win the NBA Finals. We know this. They have to win the finals.
At least get to them.
Yeah, I agree. Or get to them 100%. It's either get to them. If they win it, amazing. But this was a Pacers team. This was a Pacers team that, to me, it made no sense that, well, listen, game 1 screwed everything up.
Yes, that was the biggest.
That was the bad one. But, and again, Tibbs, he's not the player. But there was a moment when I was watching that game, I was texting you, Eric. I was texting my brother, my dad. I was texting Errol. I was texting my friend Matt, my friend Steven. I was texting everybody. And I kept texting. They were up 17 with 5 minutes to go. Speedy, I think I even texted you the same thing too. But there was 5 minutes to go. Why is Brunson coming back in the game?
Yeah.
And I forget what you said to me. You said Tibbs' way of closing, I guess.
Yeah, which I think I would have benched Towns at that point if you're going to do that.
Well, that's what it was. And it made no sense to me. And
though with the foul trouble.
No, but the thing is too is that you had McBride and Robinson in the game. You're up 17. It's totally fine. It's good. And then they go to Brunson to be the closer. And I said this time and time again. I said it last week. It's like bringing in the closer in a non-save situation in baseball. It's not necessary. You don't have to do it. So why bother? And then you do it, and the closer blows the game, and you say to yourself, well, it was unnecessary. It did need to be done. You were cruising. You were fine. You're up 17 with 5 minutes to go. You know Brunson doesn't play defense. You know Towns doesn't play defense, but yet you had McBride playing defense, Robinson, everything was smooth sailing. They're up 17. It's great. And then the cloud tower and Aaron's knee split started to go all Steph Curry on us, and it just went haywire. And it kept going and going and going, and it was just nonstop.
When did the rotation and the bench guys really start to see action? The elimination.
It was too late. Well, no. I would probably say
a lot more Shamit.
Was it game 3? I would say when you start to see Wright and Shamit and those, like game 3, I would say game 3 is when it really started happening. But at that point, these are guys that have been sitting on the bench for how many months? It's too late. There's no rotation and there's no role now because we haven't played with each other in 3 months. All right, let's just throw them out there and see what we got. You can't do something like that. That's why you need to play your bench. Whether you think the players are great or they're not great, you need to get these guys acclimated to the game and the situations at hand because they need to form chemistry with the other players. They didn't do that, and it was too late. And Tibbs was just throwing – basically he was throwing darts at a wall, and he's hoping something sticks to the wall at that point because nothing was working. And that was the other problem was everybody was saying, we have no role. What is our role? We don't have one. That's the issue. I think Tibbs thought of this too late. The constant campaigns for 5 minutes or 4 minutes nonsense. Never did that. Even Precious Achiuwa could have played a little bit more in the series. Like game 5, Achiuwa did a great job on Pascal Siakam. Is Achiuwa a good shooter? No, but he plays defense and he rebounds the ball really well. Could have played him more and given him some run. That's where the issues are.
Point. Exactly it. That's my point. Right? The adjustments that should have been made prior, not so much were done. Right?
You made them too late.
You went into the series, a winnable series. Let's not forget that. Right?
Yeah,
Granted,
of course.
Indiana, great team, one win less than the Knicks in the regular season. Beat a banged up Cleveland team. Right? Knicks coming off a series win off of Boston.
I don't want to hear about the Tatum injury. They were already up 3 games to 1 in the series when Tatum got hurt.
Exactly, right? So momentum, that game 1 really set the tone for, I think, that entire series. And you know what? The amount of mistakes and everything done in game 1, you win game 1, that series is entirely different. We're probably talking about a different NBA Finals.
Yep.
Right? So adjustments there. Then you talk about team chemistry. After Tibbs was fired, all the reports came out, right? All these different reports, whether it was Bridges being uncomfortable for a while, with his minutes and, too many minutes in the practices, right? Then you had early in the year, don't forget, there was the talks of, Josh Hart saying, we got to play without an ego, right? You had the whole ego aspect.
Yeah.
You had Josh Hart, who's probably
said a lot of times.
The biggest teammate or team player there is, getting into it with Tibbs on the sideline there. You can see it from afar that it looked like there was some tension and other stuff.
Go look back at the game 1 against Indiana. When Indiana started going on that run, when Anunoby and Towns are fighting on the bench while Tibbs is trying to make a play up and Brunson's telling everybody to shut up. And if I'm Tibbs, I'm literally standing up, I'm slamming the clipboard down, and I'm telling everybody, shut up and listen.
That's exactly.
We're still winning by 5. We're not losing.
So that's
he didn't
where
do
I
that.
had some of the issues with. But Josh, of course, once you fire a head coach, you need to hire a head coach. And in this situation, you have Tom Thibodeau, who just led your Knicks.
That is what you need to do, Eric. Thank you.
I'm just throwing it out there.
No way, I'll throw it out there.
I'm just saying, you got to replace it somehow. But you have to replace with someone who is going to get you over that hump and be better right now. So the Knicks, I hope, have someone in mind that they think is will take them to that next level, right?
Yeah.
2 names that you like to throw out there that you hear, rumors, whatever, opinions, everything. Rank them for me 1, 2, 3, and 4 in wish list order, Josh. We'll put Mike Malone, Mike Budenholzer, Jason Kidd, and of course we'll say Johnny Bryant.
Well, 2 of those guys I don't even like. But Budenholzer, that's Malone. Mike Malone, here's the thing. Now, you could interrupt me on this, Speedy. You could interrupt me too. Mike Malone is essentially a carbon copy of Tom Thibodeau, just plays his bench a little bit more. They're the same coach. Remember, Malone also comes from the Thibodeau tree, so they're the same coach. To me, he comes off very passive aggressive, and everything of that nature. I don't think, to me, I look at it and I view it as okay. So I don't know if Malone is going to be the guy. An interesting, I honestly, a couple. You said Budenholzer's not the guy. That's not it. An interesting name that I've heard and I brought up is I heard Jeff Van Gundy could get very serious consideration for this job. Remember, he was back on the bench with the Clippers. It'll be full circle. I love Jeff. I have a lot, praise for him. Jason Kidd's name has been thrown out there, and Jason Kidd is fascinating because to me, I look at Jason Kidd as he was thrown an over the hill team in Brooklyn, so I don't even count that nonsense. The job in Milwaukee he did was pretty good. Giannis was very close with him, and then he got to Dallas, and he got a team that wasn't expected to get to the final. And by the way, with two players and Speedy knows too, Kyrie and Luka, who do not play defense, got them to the finals. And the fact that they lost Kyrie for the year, they traded Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis was out for most of the year, and they still got into the play. 9% of the year was played with G League players. And he got them to the play-in tournament is literally a miracle in itself. And got him a win, by the way, in the play-in tournament, by the way. Is a miracle in itself. I know the Cooper Flag thing is going to be out there. I should just say Taylor Jenkins. He's another fascinating one. I believe he was with Memphis, correct? He's a fascinating one up to young talent. It's about keeping talent under control, a la John Morant, who's a loose cannon. But Jason Kidd is a fascinating name to me. He has won as a player. He was very successful in this town with the Nets, of course, going to back-to-back finals. Had the 1 year with the Knicks, and they got to the second round. And he's been to the finals as a coach. And I think when you see that Hall of Fame resume, everything of that nature, I think Jason Kidd is a fascinating one. Now you got Cooper Flag coming his way, but there are reports he's very close with Jalen Brunson. He has a lot of respect for the Knicks organization. He still has a house in the Hamptons, loves the East Coast. So his years have perked up with that. And then you have Johnny Bryant, who, has learned under Tom Thibodeau. He's learned under Kenny Atkinson. And another name that he's learned under Quinn Snyder, right, with the Utah Jazz. So those are three really good coaches that he has learned under. He's one of the young up-and-coming coaches in this league. It's no coincidence that he left the Knicks to go to the Cavs, and the defense got worse when he was here with the Knicks. They were a top 5 defense. And this year, you see like Evan Mobley was defensive all first team, everything of that nature. So to me, I am intrigued by Johnny Bryant. It's weird, in my opinion, that obviously he was a finalist for the job, and then they hire Ott as the head coach there. And it's like, all right, everybody assumes that Bryant's going to be the guy. I know he's the betting favorite. Ime Udoka would have been the perfect guy, but Houston's not letting him walk. To me, I would be fine with Johnny Bryant. I'd be fine with Jason Kidd. Van Gundy would get me excited.
Well, it's a family show.
Listen. Get your head out of thin air and come back down to earth. Just saying. Malone would be fine. I just think you're spinning your wheels with Malone. I know he's won a championship, but you're spinning your wheels with Malone. And he got fired, and they still took the Thunder to 7 games in the second round. And
that's the thing.
I don't know. What about you? Do you see any ideas that you have?
So what I keep reading and looking and seeing, right? Mike Malone, you just hit the nail on the head. Comes from the Thibodeau tree, right? Same kind of style, plays his bench a little bit more. Won a championship with Denver,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then at the same time, got fired, 2 weeks to end the season?
Yeah.
Does that not raise a red flag?
Of course it does. Well, him and the GM just didn't get along.
That's fine, but 2 weeks before the playoffs, you've won a championship with this basically team already, and now all of a sudden, okay. So that, to me, that's a red flag. Same thing with Budenholzer. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think it's the fit. I could be wrong. You mentioned Jason.
I think he needs a year. I mean, that was a disaster in Phoenix. That was just
Correct. And he has some good players there, obviously. Next, you said Jason Kidd. That's interesting to me, too, because, again, he does have a lot of the New York ties. He's got the Brunson ties, everything. That's an interesting one. Obviously, the biggest holdup is, will Dallas let him leave the contract, go to New York and everything. I don't know if they try to do that or if they're as eager to do that, right? So out of all of those, and we'll get into Johnny Bryant in a minute here, but then there's talks of, hey, let's talk about maybe Jay Wright's name getting floated out there.
I just don't see it.
Right. I don't see it either.
I'm not
Van
feeling
Hurley's
that
name
one.
getting floated out there. I don't see it either.
Who's it? Hurley? No,
Mhm.
no.
So
The
to
Laker
me-
one was close, but this is no way.
Correct. So I think because of the whole Laker thing itself, he kind of.
I think he's content in UConn. I think he's one. Isn't he the highest paid coach in college basketball? He's got a great program.
The NIL is.
There's no reason to leave.
Exactly. recruitment is at a different level, different game for it right now.
Sure, 100%.
So out of the three, I mean, Johnny Bryant, Jason Kidd, Jeff Van Gundy, right? I think the Knicks make more sense with Johnny Bryant.
Yeah.
He's been there before. He knows the team. He knows the chemistry.
Knows the players. He knows the guys.
Knows the outs, right? But now guess what? Guess what else he knows? He knows Cleveland pretty well too. So you bring him in. He knows the team, which is tremendous, right? The good, the bad, the ugly.
I don't think it's any coincidence that he was literally a finalist for the job, and then Tibbs gets fired, and then I'll say the next day, I think Bryant was out of the running for the Suns job, or they hired or whatever his name is.
That's not coincidental that all of a sudden the Suns expressed interest in Johnny Bryant. What was it? The next day, Tibbs fired.
No, it wasn't even expressed interest. He was the final two.
And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, they went a different direction.
Yeah.
So to me, I think it's Bryant's job. I just think there could be too many hoops and things to jump through for Jason Kidd to become there.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. But I definitely think the fact that he knows the team already, you're bringing in a rookie head coach. Yes, I get that. However, you're bringing in a coach that knows the team already, right? Like how many times you see a bench coach become a manager and then all of a sudden, takes the team and turns it around, right?
Yeah.
Well, the example that pops in my head is in Philadelphia baseball, Rob Thompson.
Yeah.
Right? Like he knows the team, he knows everything. Then all of a sudden it came back and look at Philly. So I think this same kind of argument can be made for New York here to bring in Johnny Bryant. Now,
yeah, possible.
I understand too, like this almost has the stench of Joe Girardi getting fired for the Yankees and Aaron Boone coming on.
It's fair.
Where you're a guy who really led the team further than they've been in the past however many years, right? I mean, Girardi was one game away from the World Series. Boone, no coaching experience. Been around baseball enough, knows, has the chemistry obviously now. But to me, it kind of seems very similar. So I do think, though, if the Knicks go in that Bryant direction, it's because they had the connection with the team already, right?
Sure.
You don't have to – you're not reinventing the wheel in terms of chemistry-wise and the team, unless you make all these offseason moves and acquisitions, then it's a moot point at that point, right? So I get that. But I don't see the Knicks making that many crazy and big moves to really disrupt the chemistry of the core, at the very least. I mean, Josh, I don't know if you saw it today, but the Knicks actually had some interest and tried to trade for one Kevin Durant of the Suns.
I saw that at the deadline,
I
which I don't understand how that would make any sense to this team already, considering they have two ball-dominant players in Brunson and
But what does Durant do pretty well? I used to say very well, but right now
dominates
he's
the
pretty
ball.
well.
Dominates the ball.
Catch and shoot.
Yeah, but he's 35, 36 years old. He's injury prone. It's not going to fit.
That's the biggest thing, right? So now, do you shift gears? Do you try to trade Towns for Giannis? Right? If you bring in Kidd, does that make more sense? If not, and you stay with Bryant, do you not do that deal? And you know what I mean? There's so many different factors, I think, relying on this head coach position. A lot of different factors and everything with it, to say the least.
Well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I think this thing is going to be, it's going to be a little bit of time. I know sometimes they want to rush through it. I just wish they would also meet with the media, but they just don't. They don't talk to anybody in the media at all. That's the biggest problem I have with Leon Rose. Other than that, he's done everything fine. I just, like I said, I just have a problem with it. But the NBA Finals start tonight, and the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that is the matchup. And I know I am, as everybody else, I think Indiana could give them a run. I think they're eventually going to wear down, because the problem with Oklahoma City is they're a great two-way team.
Perimeter defense.
And they have the best player in the series. They got home court advantage, which home court clearly doesn't mean anything in the playoffs. But to me, I think when you view where where the teams are in the depth that I think OKC will take this. I'm going to say 6 games. So I'm having in 5. I don't think it's going to go 7. But to me, I have it going 6. I think OKC wins it. Maybe it's a learning experience for Indiana. What are your thoughts, Eric?
I think it's fair. I think 6 is okay. I think I could see a split for the first 4 games, right? 2 in OKC, they split. 2 in Indiana, they split. You add in there's a lot of factors too, right? So I don't know. Miles Turner will help spread the floor for Indiana, but then you run into OKC's big men, right? With Hartenstein, who is aggressive, is who kind of the Knicks were missing in that previous series. You also had Chet Holmgren, again, another guy who can catch and shoot, really plays good defense as well. And then you could argue and say that OKC has the two best on the team, depending on which Jalen Williams shows up, right? Mm-hmm. When he's on and he's basically feeling it, no one's stopping him. Obviously, SGA, MVP, we know how he is. I think he's going to be a little too much for Halliburton. I think he's just going to have that step on him. So that's going to be crazy that way. The biggest X factor, like you saw in the Knicks series, will be Nesmith. Will he be able to catch lightning in a bottle again, catch and shoot, bring him in? They get down by 10, 15, 20. Is Nesmith going to be able to bring him back in, right? Shooting the 3 and everything. That's, when that happens, that's how you beat OKC. We've seen it before, but I don't know if Indiana has enough of those shots in them. Granted, you saw it against the Knicks with terrible perimeter defense. OKC has great defense. A lot of the complete opposite of the Knicks. Like you said, they're a two-way team. They're a team that they're going to run and gun on offense, and they're going to contest the shots on defense, right? Indiana hasn't seen that for a little bit, even in the Cleveland series, right? Between the injuries of Mobley, right? You didn't have the Mobley and Allen combo like you're going to see with Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren.
Yeah.
So that's going to be another thing that Indiana's going to have to adjust on the fly, and we'll see if Carlisle can do it. I don't see it happening in this round.
No, I don't think so either. I just think OKC's too deep. And again, defensively, they're sound. They know what's going on. They have the best player in SGA. But again, like you said, the size that they have on the inside, it's going to be too much for Indiana. You're going to ask Miles Turner to do a lot. And yeah, I think it is going to be too much. And that home crowd for OKC is going to be off the charts. Everything like that. So we'll see what happens. But the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs started last night, Eric. What a game.
More finals. Josh, why don't you take us through that game from last night?
It was literally 1-0, a minute. What was it, like a minute into the game? Draisaitl scores. Verhaeghe, I want to say, and then Brad Marchand scored, make it 2-1. It went back and forth to that, and then an overtime winner for Edmonton. I still think Florida wins the series in 7. Sticking with that. I haven't changed on that. I haven't wavered on that. I think they're just too deep. They're too strong. I think the Zach Hyman injury is going to hurt Edmonton at some point. So, to me, that's where I'm at. I like I said, 3 Stanley Cup Finals appearances in a row, winning last year. Maybe Edmonton does get the rebound for this year. So we'll see what happens. I know you like McDavid and you like all the, the Draisaitl and the guys. And I do too. I just think the issue is when you look at the whole big picture, I think eventually the series is just going to be – it's going to get to a point where it's going to get too deep, in my opinion, for Edmonton to keep up. And I think Bobrovsky will get it going in this series at some point.
Listen, it's going to be hard to stop Draisaitl, McDavid, right? And then you have the enforcer with Marchand there. That's why I'm taking Edmonton in 7. I think Draisaitl, I think McDavid, the experience there, seeing it. I don't know. I like their adjustments that they're making in the game itself. I really do think that it's going to be a handful and too much for Florida. Florida's going to give it their own, and like you said, the injury is going to catch up with Edmonton. That could be in game 4 or 5, where Edmonton kind of makes the adjustment afterwards by game 6, and then take it game 7.
But yeah, possibly. Like I said, I think it's going to go 7. I picked Florida before the season started to win the whole thing again. And
I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 2 wins for Edmonton, 3 wins for Florida in a row, and then 2 for Edmonton again.
Possible. Like I said, it depends on what you're going to get from Bobrovsky. I think he will, as the series progresses, he will at some point get it going. He will feel it, and everything of that nature. So to me, I don't know. I just view it as no, like I said, it's one game. I'm not, I wouldn't sweat it out and everything. Who was this texting me? Why are people texting me now? Come on.
Oh, you didn't get my text?
No.
Oh, his brother.
No.
That's it. Maybe is it Dad? He's
No.
trying to get on the show. I'm all out of ideas. Anyway, so big finals coming up that way.
Yeah,
That's gonna
take the lead for a second, would you? Jeez. I mean, my God, I'm in the middle of something. Take the lead. Your face is on the logo. Oh, come on.
That's what I was going.
Oh, God.
I got so entranced with the entire text message there. But anyway.
No, I'll tell you who it is, and I'm going to call him out on it, and it's fine. This is my friend Matt, who the Mets are winning 5-3. They're losing 6-5 now. And he's saying this loss stings a lot if they lose this game. I'm like, bro, they lost 7-1 to the Nationals in May, and they're 39-23.
You know, I'm going to you should be listening to the show.
Yeah, here. You know what? I'm going to send him the link right now.
You know, send him the link. Tell him to call in. Tell him to call in about that.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of a show here.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. What's next?
It's just silly.
He's going to complain.
I mean, Jesus, man. They were winning 7-1 against the Nationals this year and lost, and they're 39-23, and they're facing the Dodgers. And the Dodgers are winning because it was an error by Beatty that Alvarez didn't catch. That's the reason why the Dodgers are winning. And the game's not even over yet. Like, what? I mean, they'll bring Tanner Scott in, right? Not over. We'll see what happens.
Would be the Braves losing.
And to be honest with you, let me tell you something. You go on the road and you split with the Dodgers. Speedy, your method. Would you have signed up for that?
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I would have been like, if they won today, it's gravy for this team. You win 3 out of 4 against the Dodgers in LA. Then you get to play the Rockies after. It's wonderful.
Their 11th win of the season, or whatever they got.
Oh my God! But didn't they sweep the Marlins?
Oh yeah,
the Marlins. I mean, come on. Here we go. Tanner Scott's coming in. You see what I'm talking about?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. But anyway, this was a interesting show. Eric, do you have any last-minute topics you want to discuss before we get to Are You Better Than That?
I don't know. I mean, I think we hit the...
You got the baseball with the 2 New York teams.
We hit football. We hit basketball. Are we giving any love to golf?
What, but Scheffler?
Scheffler winning it finally.
Wow.
Get a little look at that. We're going to give him a little shout-out mention here.
I always shout out Scotty on the show.
All right.
I always do that. But, I mean, the baseball's been fantastic. Both teams are in first place. I know the Yankees had a tough one against Cleveland yesterday, and the Mets are having a tough one against the Dodgers. But again, like I said, if the Mets split with the Dodgers on the road, I mean, the Braves game was brutal. I mean, the Braves, I think, they got to figure that out.
Well, you know what they did? They did figure it out, Josh. You know who they're calling back up?
Who?
From AAA, calling back up, Craig Kimbrell.
God. By the way, did you think it was weird that Freddie Gonzalez, who by the way was replaced by Snicker as the manager, to be now the third base coach?
Wow. You know
was that weird? That was a weird call by the Braves, was it not?
That was.
But again, here's the problem with the Braves. Everybody's hitting like, other than Acuna right now, everybody's hitting like 230, 240 on this team. That's what I'm like. Michael Harris saying 230. You know, Matt Olson saying 235. Austin Riley's hitting under 270. Did you see Strider's only? I mean, since the time remember Strider used to throw 99, 100. He's only thrown 95 since the surgery happened. You know.
You know, that really grinds my gears that he's not throwing as hard. But you know what, Josh? Really, you know what else?
I'm okay with it.
As a Mets fan, I get that. There's more stuff that grinds my gears than, really gets me kind of upset in the sports world. You know what? I think now is a great time for You're Better Than That.
I agree with you on that one. And I think you want to start it off, or do you want Speedy to start it off?
Speedy, take the lead. Let's go. What do we got?
Right, we'll go to another joke in baseball. The Pittsburgh Pirates. The Paul Skeens is getting Jacob deGrom syndrome, everybody. They do not want to score from him. And Skeens is, I think, at a low 2 ERA. I think the best start for any Pirates pitcher in their franchise history. And he can't buy any run support. Now getting outdueled by Lance McCullers, the most recent start. So the Pittsburgh Pirates offense, whenever Skeens is pitching, you're better than that.
You know what? I'm going to chime in real quick because I was a little scared that Speedy was stealing mine. He started with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I said, uh-oh. He went a different route. I also have a gripe with the Pittsburgh Pirates right now.
Oh, God.
I know.
They don't have enough issues this year.
But
they're going to lose Paul Skeens in like 2 years in free agency. They don't have enough problems.
But guess what? They have another guy in the farm system who is a Paul Skeens-esque. We're not going to call him Paul Skeens, but we'll call him Paul Skeens-esque in the name of Bubba Chandler. Your team isn't doing anything and much or whatever. Bring him up. Let him get going. Get the experience or whatever for now. Let him build. Come on. Why not? Fill the seats. Do something. Your offense isn't doing anything. You lost Jared Jones for the season. Why not? It's perfect time. Bring up. And you say, but Eric, they have a starting 5. Who are we going to send back down? I don't know. I think Burrows is okay to send back down. But come on, bring up Bubba Chandler. Let's make this rotation that much better. Come on, Pittsburgh. I believe you're better than that.
Mine has been Major League Baseball in general. So they're bringing the automated ball and strike zone in 2026. And my thought process is, okay, why don't we do this the way that tennis does this, where, I think each team gets 2 challenges, and you could challenge it by smacking. Only the pitcher, the catcher, or the hitter can challenge it. No more or nobody else can do that. My thought process with the whole situation is this. Do it the way tennis does it. Have that ball marker. And because here's what's going to happen. It's going to take forever with these guys to figure out if it's a ball or strike, and then the game's going to stop, start. It makes no sense to do it that way. I can't stand it that way. I hate it. It's annoying. Major League Baseball better fix that and figure it out. You're better than that. Hopefully.
So we think.
It's like Ghost
Tune
Rider
in.
second base in extra innings.
Oh, yeah. Well, tune in. Coming up next at 7:30, Job in the Mouth with the whole gang. Errol Marks, Speedy Petey, Aaron Fishman, Tommy Scoops, and, of course, Jabba Chamberlain. The whole gang will be there this evening. They got a lot to discuss. Check everybody out, of course, on worldwidesportsradio.com, YouTube, Periscope, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and, of course, the TikTok by Jabba and the Mouth. All good things, all good stuff. So, all excited to hear it. Of course, you can check us out every week from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And you can check out, of course, Jabba and the Mouth at 7:30. You can check out Snowman in the morning and any other
None that are consistently active.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, a lot of good things for this program. And, of course, don't forget to check out 103.9 FM, the LI News Radio Network, every Saturday at 7 o'clock with Errol and Speedy doing the Weekend Crunch. So, good stuff. Eric, it was great to have you back. Good sports talk. A lot to digest. We hope everybody.
It felt entertaining. I felt
it. Did.
You know
what it is, because it's this time of the year. I mean, Speedy, you know, it's when you're trying to grasp at straws almost with sports news. Summertime rolling around, everything of that nature. But we try to keep it entertaining and doing what we can, everything of that nature. Eric, I'll see you next week. Any last words before we go?
Stay healthy. Stay positive.
That's it. Speedy Petey, of course, thank you so much. And, of course, to Eric Bowe. Check out again, Job in the Mouth coming up at 7:30. Have a good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your sports. We'll talk to you next week. This has been Game On live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car